Keenan here from Following Keenan. Welcome back. Today's video, I'm going to talk about what happens when you get audited by the IRS. Now, I know I've had a lot of questions from people when they see me, counting through all the money. Do you put it all in the bank? Do you ever get in trouble by the government? Well, funny you should ask that. So in today's video, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what happens in every step and kind of give you an idea of what to be prepared for. Stay tuned. All right, the first thing that happens in the IRS is they send you a letter. Now, the letter will be addressed to you and anybody else on your tax return, so your other significant other or whoever's on there. So you'll get two letters. Now, what's going to be in that letter? It's pretty simple. When you open that letter, it's going to state that they're the IRS. They want to perform an audit. They're going to tell you what year they're going to audit. They can go back 5 years from the current year. They're going to tell you what they're looking for a little bit. In my audit, they talked about depreciation. In my 2017 taxes, they didn't like something in my depreciation. They wanted me to prove my depreciation. I depreciate about $92,000 to $100,000 worth of laundromat equipment. So it was the laundromat that flagged me. And so you'll see that in your letter. The letter's also going to say that you need to call them and set up an appointment to meet. Because the first thing you're going to do with the IRS is you're going to sit down and meet with them. With COVID, they do it over the phone. Without COVID, they'll either do it in their office or they'll come to your place of residence or they'll come to your business. Now that you've set up your meeting, what happens? Well, they're going to ask you a series of questions and they basically want to feel you out. They're going to see how honest you are. Now, they don't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you right now, one of the biggest tips I can give you is every question they ask, they already know the answer. So every question they ask you, they're going to say, oh, did he tell us the truth? Check. Told us the truth? Check. Didn't know that answer? Uh-oh. And what they're going to do with this is it's going to determine how aggressive they're going to be with your audit. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but most of the time that's how they determine how honest, how upfront you are with them, and they'll get a better feel for what they're going into. People get defensive. People get mad. People cuss at them. Don't do that. That does not help you. The thing you have to go into an audit realizing is you've already made either a mistake or there's something minor, wrong. If you've decided to neglect claiming income like this, then that's going to be on you, because if they've caught you, you're going to have to pay a penalty, you're going to have to pay a fine, and you're going to have to pay back taxes. But if you've done everything right, like me, and then you don't have anything to worry about. Here's the thing, folks. Everybody asks me when I do the change-out videos, they say, do you deposit all the money? Yes. And this is exactly why I do, because I like to sleep at night. I like to sleep like a baby. If I was dishonest, when I get asked those questions, I wouldn't know the answers as well. Because I'll give you an example. They're going to ask you, if you have rental property, they're going to go through each rental house you have and they're going to ask you what the monthly rent is. Now they're going to look back at that 2017 taxes and they're going to see the amount of rent you collected over the whole year. And if that number doesn't match that monthly calculated out, well, that's a flag. So whether you had a month where a tenant moved out or they just moved in, you better have a good answer, because if you don't, well, that's going to get you in a little bit of trouble. That all checked out with me. My wife is an author. Her book thing, which has its own separate tax thing, it all checked out. The farming only had one issue, and it was a 1099. I had someone hired that did work. I thought they were a company. I made a small mistake. So we found that in the interview. I knew the minute when they said it, did you 1099 this guy? Like, no. And I knew right away I should have. It was a small amount. I only paid him like $1,000, $2,000. Really kind of minor. It's going to be a small penalty, $500, $600. Water under the bridge. Pay it and move on. The big thing I'm facing is depreciation. And so you go through your interview. Now, the biggest advice I have for you is don't lie, because they already know all the answers, okay? It's kind of like in college in law class. They teach you as a lawyer, a trial lawyer, never ask someone on the stand a question you don't know the answer to or think you know the answer to. Because what's going to happen is They're going to throw you a curveball and you're not prepared for it. So the IRS already knows the answers to these questions. What is your name? Where do you live? What's your social security number? How long have you lived at your house? You know, they ask you all this. They really do. They start out simple and they just keep going. And they go, how long have you owned this rental property? How long have you owned this laundromat? Why did you get into laundromats? They'll ask you weird things to throw you off. You know, it came up that I have a YouTube channel. They asked that question. What about this and this and this? I mean, they ask all these questions. So it's really kind of crazy. And my biggest advice with it is I don't do the interview by myself. I have a CPA and a bookkeeper I pay. And so I paid them a retainer. And basically they were the middleman, my CPA was. They can take a lot of weight off your shoulders because I don't know all the tax laws. I don't know all the bookkeeping rules. I don't know all that stuff. I give it to them, let them do it, and this is how we work it out. I check their work once in a while. I have them audited by somebody else that I trust. You do that to be safe. So they can mitigate a lot of issues you're going to have because you're going to have a lot of anxiety. Like when my wife got the letters, this is like the 3rd time I've been audited, she gets all nervous. There's nothing to be nervous about if you've done everything right. And I knew I did everything right, or I might have made like little mistakes. If I have to pay an extra $5,000, I don't care. Now, if I have to pay $100,000, that's a big difference. So they're going to get something out of me at the end of the day, but I'm just trying to mitigate how big this amount is. That's the other thing you're going to realize. All right, so now you've done your interview, and they're going to go do their due diligence. They're going to ask for all your records. And so your CPA is what I use. He will ship them over in a document to them. As they ask for information, he'll keep spoon feeding it to them. Right back to the depreciation. They wanted to see a receipt. And it was actually the laundromat I built. They wanted to see a receipt for everything done on that laundromat. We had it all. We gave it to them. They actually argued things like, well, you really shouldn't deduct the electrical work you did. Well, you can. And so you'll have these weird arguments like, well, you bought that in 2016, but I didn't put the laundromat in service till the middle of 2017, so I didn't deduct that stuff till 2017, see? They tried to argue I should have deducted it back then. Laundromat wasn't put in service yet. I couldn't do it. It's actually the law. So it's funny, you will actually argue with these IRS agents about their own laws. And sometimes I think they do it to see if you know what you're doing. It's happened before. The first audit I ever had, they argued about farm equipment that I couldn't buy it the previous year before I started farming. I said, what, I got to buy it the day I go to plant corn? I got to go buy a planter? It doesn't work that way. You know, just like when you quit farming, you quit at the end, you sell your equipment. You may not even have a crop in the field that year. It doesn't mean I don't have to pay taxes on that. Well, they had to go see the manager and come up with a reason, and they did. They accepted it. But my point is they'll argue with you. So you have to be calm and don't get upset. Don't get worked up. But it'll happen. Now, how do you get audited? Now, this is another thing. How does this happen? Well, as you go through life, whether you're 1099, you do W-2s, depreciation, all these things will have a metric in their computer. And when you turn your tax returns in, it'll click along and it'll say, okay, this is normal, that's normal. Whoa, what's here? What's there? That's what's happening to me. All of a sudden I'm going along and then all of a sudden I got $100,000 in depreciation just show up 1 year. That was a red flag. That's what flagged me. And so those things, like if you don't claim your W-2 or you claim a kid that's been claimed on someone else's taxes, those things will all flag you, and that's how they pull you out. Severity of the audit. Nowadays, the IRS does less audits, but they're more intense. Used to be they did a lot of audits and they just looked at little things, pulled it out, made a few bucks, and they moved on. Now, like with my situation, I've been in this audit since March of last year of 2020, and this is 2021. It's been going on for a year. They can still go on for another year yet. That's how intense they are in this. They want to find every little penny, and it's crazy. It's just crazy. Laundromats, car washes, and mini storages get flagged for another reason, and it's because of laundering money. Okay? Now, laundering money is where you have an illegal business and you take that money like this and you deposit it into the account of that, then you pull it back out clean. Okay, and that's one of the big things that happens with these businesses. The second thing that happens with these businesses is little for me, little for them, little for me, little for them. And people do this all day long. So they skim off of it. And they don't put it in the bank, and it isn't recorded. Now, you guys know I don't do that because I like to sleep at night. But those are the two things that laundromats, car washes, and mini storages can consistently do. I want to give you an idea of volume to understand why this is so big. A laundromat on its own, one laundromat in a big town of 100,000 can net income at the end of the day, after all your bills are paid, 100,000, like it's nothing, okay? That's a lot of, think about that. This is, I think this is $4,000 right here, okay? $100,000, okay? This is $4,000. That's a lot of cash. All that is in cash, okay? That $100,000 net, that laundromat probably made $200,000 to pull that off, okay? So you're talking that as a laundromat owner, you're going to be dealing with 30, 40, 50,000, 100,000 a year, 200,000 a year, all in cash. Now, yes, you got to pay your bills, but nobody knows you even got it. And that's what one of the big things is with a laundromat. Nobody even knows you got this until it goes into the bank. You know, that's the week I counted. It goes into the bank, they know about it. If I don't put it in the bank, they don't know about it. That's a big problem with laundromats. It's why you get flagged. You need to have good books from the beginning. You need to be disciplined from day one. You need to have a bookkeeper. You need to have a CPA. You just need to. They will save you so much money on your return that it'll pay for it. Plus it's tax deductible, as their pay is tax deductible. I'm not an expert in that. I hire them. I get to write it off. I don't pay as much in taxes. I also save by using them. It's a win-win. Big advice. I used to do my own taxes, but it got too cumbersome with houses, farm ground, my own job, my wife's job, and the laundromats. It's just too much to keep track of. Depreciation schedules. You should see it. I'll have to show it sometime. The printouts of these things, they're crazy. They're like all these numbers all over because every laundromat's on a different cycle. I got one building on 27.5. They're all on 27.5, but I've got one building I bought 1 year, 2 years later, a year later. So they're each a year apart. The furnaces are all on different schedules. The water heaters are all on different schedules. The washers, the dryers, the concrete outside that I put in, the metal, the paint. I mean, it's all different. So you have to have somebody keep track of that for you. It is impossible. Even houses is hard. So here's how it's going to play out in the end. If you hire the CPA or you do it yourself, either or, they're going to come back to you after you've submitted all your documents to them, and they're going to tell you what you owe, what their findings are, and then you're going to have to go through that. I'm at that stage right now where they said I didn't have a receipt for this, I didn't have a receipt for that, which I did, and they were there. I think they overlook them on purpose. I really do. I think they do it just to see if you're really awake. So we found, and I'm going to talk, $62,000. They said I didn't have their receipts. And we had to send them to them again. And now they have them. So now they should be good. It's just comical. They play a game. You play a game. It is unreal. Now, you can't get worked up because as long as you've done everything right, you have nothing to worry about. If you've done things wrong, if you've gotten paid under the table and all of a sudden they've caught you, that's a problem. How did they catch you getting paid under the table? Let's say one of your friends you worked for, he ends up claiming that as a bill, writes up a receipt. Well, who's so-and-so? Then they flag you for that. It can happen. I've seen it happen. I've seen people get pinched like what's happening to me, and all of a sudden they've got to come up with receipts for all these things they claimed, which were under the table jobs they paid people to like weld on their tractor or paint their car. Well, now they're trying to claim that to get themselves out of a jam. They're going to jam that person up too. So that's how you get caught in this network. And it's why the IRS loves finding things, because once they find something, then they can go and hit other people as they go. It's like a spider web. So that's why I don't practice that to begin with. I pay everybody by check. I pay everybody with bills. I do not do under the table stuff for a reason. I just don't do it. So that's my advice to you. That's what happens in an audit, and it's going to take 6 months to a year for it to all play out. COVID's a little longer because of the situation, but normally we'd be done within a year. First couple of weeks, they're going to look at all your information. Then they're going to send something back to you. You send it back, and then that's usually how it plays out. Eventually, they'll have a number, and I'll end up probably paying $8,000, $9,000 for this. The sad part about my return for 2017 is right now the IRS has already said they're going to audit 2018 now on me. So even after I get out of this audit, I'm going right back into another one. I mean, that's just how it works. So I might as well get 19 audited and 20 we're just turning in, so we might as well get that audited too, whatever. At the end of the day, it's kind of comical because when it comes down to it, with me and my wife, we make a lot of money. And I don't talk about dollars, but we're shy of $1 million, okay? And when you make that kind of money a year, you get noticed, especially when you're as young as I am. I'm in my 40s. And so when you're in your 30s and 40s and you're making serious money, that people that, like this IRS agent, he isn't making that kind of money. He's 50 years old, 60 years old. He isn't making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year. He hasn't got $4,000 in cash just laying right in front of him. He ain't got that. And these people can't, it's just like people ask me on YouTube videos, how can you do all this? You know what? Snowball, baby steps. I just do this and it leads into that and I keep going. Anybody can do it at the end of the day. I'm not the brightest person around. I'm just hardworking and I'm successful at that. And I keep going. Just like this, I don't let this get me down. I mean, this happened. I got notice of an audit right before the pandemic. We went into a lockdown and I got a family member fighting cancer. I mean, a trifecta of things going on in the year 2020 for me. And you guys didn't even notice it in the videos. You didn't even notice, I'm depressed or upset. Life happens. You've got to keep moving. It's my biggest example. You've got to keep moving. You've got to keep going. You can't let things fall apart just because this bad news or that. As long as you're doing things right, as long as you're staying on the right side of the law, you have nothing to worry about. Now, if I was cheating everything, I'd be worried. I'm not. I claim everything. I claim stuff I don't even need to claim. I didn't even deduct stuff. Like I don't deduct a home office. I don't deduct mileage. I don't deduct meals. There's all these things you can deduct. I don't do it because they're frivolous expenses that mean nothing to me. I actually found a bill that I hadn't deducted, like a $10,000 washer I bought. So now I get to take that off. You know, sometimes you forget, but I just don't get crazy going, all the little nails I bought or screws. I don't worry about every little thing. Going forward, I'll probably add more of that in, but I was trying to not be greedy because I pay in every year. That's what's funny about it. You know, at the end of the day, my accountant said, you know, we really could probably make it so you pay in less if we really work with your books here and get you to where you're using your money wiser before you get to tax time. And that's probably what's going to happen. So out of this audit, a positive for me is going to be, I'm going to pay less in taxes going forward because I'm going to get smarter with, well, this laundromat needs air conditioning. Well, instead of paying $30,000 in taxes, let's go buy a $7,000 air conditioner. You know, let's go buy the $10,000 washer instead of paying $20,000 in taxes. That's what's happening in my business right now. I'll get more customers. I'll make more money. I got a better laundromat. So that's what happens. Hope you got a lot out of this. That's where my audit's at. That's how it works. Like I said, you get a letter, it tells you what's wrong. I mean, I could make elaborate videos and do fancy pictures and sound and everything else, but this is so simple. That's all it really is. And I would definitely hire a CPA to do your books if you have a business, and then have them represent you when it goes to the IRS. To give you an idea what I paid $5,000 or $6,000 to have my CPA represent me for this. I'm already paying him, I think, $24,000 or $30,000 a year for his biz services anyway, bookkeeping and accounting and taxes. So that $5,000's nothing. I can make that back in a heartbeat. I have no idea what this tax guy was talking about. Even in the interview, he would talk back and forth to my CPA, and it was like they were on Mars. I mean, I had no idea what the hell they were talking about some of the time. I don't need to know that. That's why I hire people. And then I hire people to audit the peoples and know what they're knowing. You know, that's what I do. It's just like Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone probably couldn't do his taxes. He knows the basics like I do, but we hire people because we need to free our time up to go make more money, not sit here and learn tax law every year when it changes. So, big advice, if you're gonna have a business, go after that. I hope you got something out of this. I know this was short, a lot of talking, no music. I know you guys love the music, but I just want to lay it out. It's real simple. If you got some questions, leave them in a comment below. Let me know what you think. Take it easy. Till next time.